Hello and welcome to the channel. Today is all about the Warden tank for update 37 Scribes of Fate. Wardens make excellent tanks in the Elder Scrolls Online, as they can provide several utilities for the group, allowing the players to become a top tier tank. To help you reach this with little effort, we have designed the build with you in mind, with a beginner build for players who are starting out and looking for a place to start at. Then an advanced build for those who are ready to become a master. To understand how all this works, I will be going over the stats on the build, what skills I like to use, the passives that are essential for the build, what gear makes this build tick, and last, the CP setup. All of this is coming up next. Now diving into the build, starting off in our character sheet, we're going to buff our character up here first a little bit. Our max magicka is sitting at 22,000 with max health sitting at 41,000 with max stamina sitting at 25,300. For recovery on the build, we can get a little bit more recovery, and we're going to get our max recovery on our back bar. So we're going to apply our potion here, apply this skill here. And recovery can go for magicka be at 2,700 with health recovery at 1,100 and stamina recovery at 1,000. For resistance on the build, we're going to have our best bang for our buck on our front bar by applying the skill here first and then popping a heal. With our spell resistance sitting at 33,300 and physical resistance at 32,500. For attributes on the build, we have 64 points into health. Health is the main resource you want to use as a tank, because the more health you have, the longer you can survive and take more hits. If you feel like 41,000 is a little bit too much on the build, you can take some of these attribute points and you can divide them up. Some points into magicka if you feel like magicka is a little low, or into stamina if you feel like stamina is a little low. Just keep in mind though, you will want to make sure your stamina always stays higher than your magicka, because stamina, we want that major resource to come back whenever we pop shards or an energy orb. So just keep that in mind, that's what you want. Now for the boon or Mundustone we are running on the build, we are running the Astronaut. This increases our magicka recovery by 310. If you do feel like the magicka recovery on the build is quite high, you can change that out. Again, for things to increase either your max health, max magicka, or max stamina would be my top recommendations. Now going over into skills on the build. Before we dive into the skills, just want to let everybody know that the way I have my bar set up doesn't mean this is the way you need to have it. For instance, if you do not like Pierced Armor as your right bumper ability and you prefer it more as your X, you can move it over into your X, Y, B, or left bumper. This is just what's comfortable for me, so just kind of play around what is comfortable for you. Just keep in mind though, some skills are on this bar for certain reasons that we'll cover in passives later. So let's begin with our first ability, down into the green balance skill line. It is the first ability to unlock, starts off as fungal growth. We then morph it to enchanted growth. This is a target of a cone area, so pretty much a triangle out in front of you reaching up to 20 meters. So the further away you are from your target, the wider the area is going to be to hit them. Now this will heal us and allies in front of us for some good chunk of health, but mostly we really want to apply this to us and our group members, because this gives us minor intellect and minor endurance, increasing our magicka and stamina recovery by 15% for 20 seconds. So really nice to buff everybody's recovery for this build and other builds as well. Next ability we have is down in the one hand and shield skill line. It is the second ability to unlock, starts off as low slash. We then morph it to heroic slash. This is on a target that will deal some physical damage to that target. On top of it, we will afflict them with minor main, reducing their damage done by 5% for 12 seconds. This is really nice as a tank because reducing their damage done means we don't have to really spam our heals to keep ourselves alive, because now the enemy's doing less damage to us. or some other DPS or healers on the group. So always try to apply this because this will definitely help you out. Now the additive bonus here for being heroic slash is this gives us minor heroism, granting us one ultimate every second and a half for 12 seconds. So a nice way to build ultimate on the bar. So that way we can use our ultis more frequently to help the group out. Next ability we have is up in the Winter's Embrace skill line. It is the third ability to unlock, starts off as Arctic Wind, we then morph it to Polar Wind. This is a 12-meter radius that lasts for 10 seconds that will heal us and an ally within the 12 meters for some good chunk of health, and then proceed to heal us for an additional health every 2 seconds over 10 seconds. This ability is scaled off of our max health, so the higher our health is, the better this heal will be. So that's where if you really want to pump your health on the build, you sure can, but again, you got to find that nice balance for the build. Next ability we have is in the Winter's Embrace skill line. It is the second ability to unlock, starts off as Impaling Shard, we then morph it to Gripping Shard. This is around us of a 6 meters that will immobilize enemies in the area for 3 seconds, and this will deal some frost damage to them every 1 second for the 12-second duration. Now, the enemies that are hit are overcome with bitter cold, reducing their movement speed by 30% for 3 seconds. So kind of a nice to immobilize targets first, and then that way we can pull adds in with one of our other abilities. And then after the 3 seconds are done, since they've been hit, they'll now have their movement speed reduced by 30% for the next 3 seconds. And it keeps applying to them every single time they get hit. So it's always kind of nice to just control a bunch of adds to make sure they can't escape as well. Now the damage done is based off of our max health. So the higher our health, the more damage we can have. On top of it, it's also a higher chance to apply this shield status effect. So that is kind of a nice additive bonus to have as well. Next ability we have is down in the One Hand and Shield skill line. It is the first ability to unlock, starts off as Puncture, we then morph it to Pierce Armor. This will tell the enemy that we pierce on top of dealing physical damage, but this will tell the enemy to attack us for the next 15 seconds, and this will be our main taunt we want to use on the build. The reason for this is we inflict minor breach and major breach on an enemy, reducing their physical and spell resistance by 2,900 for minor and 5,900 for major for 15 seconds. Why this is important is because every enemy in veteran content has 18,200 physical and spell resistance, so the lower you get that number, the stronger your DPS are going to hit because they don't have to try to hit through as much armor. So this is why we really want to try to apply this as much as possible, especially on boss fights, because you're going to help your DPS burn the boss a little bit quicker that way. For the ultimate on this bar, we're all the way down into the support skill line. Starts off as Barrier, we then morph this to Reviving Barrier. This is a 12-meter radius around us that lasts 30 seconds. That will protect us and nearby group members with a ward for each of us, and that will absorb up to 26,000 damage for the next 30 seconds. So kind of nice to give everybody a damage shield on the build. That way we can kind of play as Protector. The nice part about this one as well is this ward also heals us and our group members for a good chunk of health over 15 seconds. So we kind of heal, can proc some of our passives as well with this, and so it's a nice ultimate to use overall. Now going into our back bar with our first ability on the bar, and this will be up in the Winter's Embrace skill line. With the fifth ability to unlock, starts off as Frozen Gate, we then morph it to Frozen Device. This can be cast up to 28 meters with a 5-meter radius that lasts 15 seconds, and when we cast it, it takes a second and a half to arm, but when it's triggered, an enemy is teleported to us and immobilized for 3 seconds, and they are dealt with some frost damage, and then afflicted with a Major Main, reducing their damage done by 10% for 4 seconds. So really this is to grab it in those range fighters, mostly your archers and your mages out there. However, you cannot use this on a boss, so you cannot apply the Major Main this way to them, but we'll apply our Minor Main to them anyway. Now, when we cast these, we can only have up to 3 frozen devices active at one time for the 15 seconds. So if you decide to cast a 4th one in the 15 seconds, where you casted your first one will then move to where you casted your 4th one in the first 15 seconds. When 15 seconds are up, your first one will disappear, and then you can cast and still have 3. Next ability we have is down into the Destruction Staff skill line. With the second ability to unlock, starts off as Wall of Elements. We then morph it to Elemental Blockade. This is an 18 by 12 meter area. What this means is it's 12 meters wide by 18 meters deep that this area will be. That lasts for 15 seconds. That will deal some damage in front of us to enemies in the target area. Now, since we have a Frost Staff, this will be called Blockade of Frost, and this will deal some frost damage to enemies in the area. Now, when we first cast this, we also apply Frost Safeguard for 6 seconds to us and nearby allies. It absorbs up to 10,000 damage from projectiles. So projectiles in the game are anything that is cast magically by a mage, or any arrows that are launched by an archer. So unfortunately, we do not protect any melee fighters, but still we at least protect something. Now, on top of this is chilled enemies are afflicted with minor breach, and their movement speed is reduced by 40% for 4 seconds, so it's just another way to debuff a group of adds in the game. Next ability we have is up into the Animal Companion skill line. It is the 3rd ability to unlock, starts off as Swarm. We then morph it to Growing Swarm. This can be casted up to 28 meters and has a 5 meter radius. And this will send Fetcher Flies to attack an enemy, causing them to bleed for damage over 20 seconds. And then the nice part about these is why we really want to cast this will afflict them with a minor vulnerability for the duration, increasing their damage taken by 5%. So that means our DPS can now hit a lot harder against that target. So really try to cast this on a boss. An additive thing here is enemies near that carrier also take some bleed damage every 2 seconds for the duration, so a nice way to now kind of damage multiple adds especially. Now just keep in mind you can only have 1 Growing Swarm active at a time, so it does change. So if you do miss a boss on the first cast, just make sure to pop it over to the boss fairly soon. Next ability we have is in the Winter's Embrace skill line. It is the 1st ability to unlock, starts off as Frost Cloak. We then morph it to Ice Fortress. This is an 8 meter radius that lasts 30 seconds. That will grant us Major Resolve, increasing our physical and spell resistance by 5,900 for 30 seconds. So a very quite long time to have our Major Resolve, but this will definitely be our major protection against enemies in the game. On top of it, this also gives us minor protection, reducing our damage taken by 5% for 30 seconds. So we become a lot more tankier this way by just applying our Major Resolve and applying now minor protection. Next ability we have is down into the Undaunted skill line. It is the 3rd ability to unlock, starts off as Inner Fire. We then morph it to Inner Beast. This can be casted up to 28 meters that deals some physical damage to that enemy and taunt them to attack us for 15 seconds. So this will be our range taunt, so you will want to cast this at enemies that are just a little bit out of reach of you within the 28 meters. And then if they do end up coming towards you, make sure to then switch over and then hit them with Pierce Armor to definitely apply the debuffs to them as well. Now, enemies that we hit with this also take 10% more damage from us while we attack them, which is kind of nice. But an additive bonus here is range allies who are targeting that same enemy that we hit with Inner Beast have a 50% chance to activate Radiant Synergy, dealing some magic damage to them over 3 seconds, and then additional magic damage to them and other nearby enemies. So just kind of a nice way to give allies some synergies. On top of it, deal a little bit of additive damage as well. For the ultimate on this bar, we are down in the Assault skill line. Starts off as Warhorn, we then morph it to Aggressive Warhorn. This has a 20 meter radius that lasts for 30 seconds. Nice part about this ultimate is this increases our group's max magicka and max stamina by 10% for 30 seconds, so everybody get their major resources for either doing damage. For us, it'd be we now have longer blocking because we have more resources for that. But the nice thing we really want to use this for, especially for our DPS in the group, is us and our allies will gain major force, increasing our critical damage done by 20% for 10 seconds. So they're definitely going to hit a lot harder, so it's really nice to make sure to apply this. Now, some additive ultimates that you could change, just in case if you don't have the assault or sports one, is I'd go up into the one hand and shield skill line. So this one will have to be slotted on our front bar here, is I would use shield wall. Now for the morph on this one, this really depends on kind of the content you are running. I find both of them very useful to use, so just kind of pick your flavor on which one you'll prefer more. So for spell wall, this will reflect all projectiles casted at us. So basically a good dungeon for this one is, let's say, the Imperial City Prison. When the Lord Warden is shooting his orbs at you or a teammate, if you stand in front of his arms there, the orbs will actually bounce back and hit the Lord Warden and actually cause some damage to him. So this is kind of a nice way to kind of add more damage on your tank, and this will reflect all projectiles casted at you for the next 6 to 8 seconds. And we automatically block all attacks at no cost as well, so that's a nice thing as well. Then for shield discipline, we reinforce our shield, allowing us to automatically block all attacks at no cost for 6 to 8 seconds when it's all the way leveled up. But why we really like this one too is because any of our one-handed shield abilities cost nothing while this effect persists. So if you don't have enough stamina to use, let's say, a pierce armor on the target to taunt the target, you pop this and now you have a free taunt that we can use, taunt them, and then you can heavy attack because you're now blocking everything without actually holding up your shield. So a good time to also replenish some of your stamina resource as well. The other ultimate that I would suggest using is found in the Winter's Embrace skill line. This one would be mostly on the back bar, as I would use Sleet Storm, then morph it into Permafrost, because this is a 10-meter radius around you that lasts 12 seconds that will deal some frost damage every second for the 12-second duration. And on top of it, the enemies will then have reduced movement speed by 70%, and then we can also apply the chill status effect, which is very nice as well. But we really want to use this for group utility is because us and nearby allies gain major protection, reducing our damage taken by 10%, so you are playing a lot more of a protector this way on the build. Now, as we go over the passives here, we are only going to focus on the key passives for the build. I still recommend looking at every passive and seeing how they can help you out for your build. We're going to start in the Animal Companion skill line. And we have Savage Beast here. This gives us 4 ultimate whenever one of our Animal Companion skills end. This only happens once every 8 seconds. So basically this is going to be for our Growing Swarm is where we can get this passive. But I still highly recommend just to kind of let the Growing Swarm go for the 19 to 20 second duration and then recast it just to kind of debuff the enemy as much as possible. Again, if you want to gain an ultimate really quick, this is a nice way to do it. And then last key passive for this one is Flourish, as this one gives us a 12% recovery to both stamina and magicka if we have an Animal Companion skill slotted. So we have it on our back bar, not on our front bar. That's why recovery is slightly better on our back bar. Now heading over into the Green Balance skill line. The one that we have here, I would say, is Maturation, as this gives us a 10% increase to our max health whenever we heal ourselves or an ally for 20 seconds. So this is kind of nice to just kind of bulk ourselves up, bulk up our group, so that way they can take a little bit more damage, so that way it makes getting through content just a little bit easier when everybody has a little bit more health to play with. Then let's head over into the Winter Embrace skill line. The one that we want to start with here is Glacier Presence, as this can increase the chance of applying the chilled to enemies with Winter Embrace skills by 200%. And we also increase the damage of chilled status effect by 700, and this is based off of our highest stats, so this is just really nice just to be able to apply more chilled. to enemies, especially since we have a frost staff, so chances are we also apply minor brittle as well. Then I would say we have frozen armor here, as this increases our resistance by 990 per winter embrace skill slotted. And since we have 2 on the back bar and 2 on the front bar, our current bonus doesn't really fluctuate when we go from one to the other. So that means even on your frost staff, you can block fairly well with the resistance we have. Granted, not as high as our sword and board, but it's still pretty good. And then the last one here is, I would say, is Icy Aura. This reduces the snares applied to us by 15%, so that's just kind of nice. If you get it kind of slowed, you're not going to be as slow as compared to other tanks because you don't have as much snare applied to us. Now heading over into the one-handed and shield skill line. We will be starting off here with Fortress, as this reduces the cost of our one-handed shield abilities by 15%, but we really like it just to reduce the cost of blocking by 36%. That way our stamina can stay fuller longer because we're not reducing that as much. Then the next one I would say is then Sword and Board. This increases our weapon and spell damage by 5%, which is kind of nice, but however, we are mostly focused on increasing the amount of damage we can block by 20%. That's definitely going to help us survive a lot longer. Next, we have Deflected Bolts. This increases the damage we block from projectiles and range attacks by 14%, which, just to keep in mind as a tip, this actually stacks with also our Sword and Board one. So our mages and rangers that are attacking us from with arrows and magical projectiles, actually the damage they do to us is reduced by a total of 34% because these are additive, roughly 34%. Then the last one here is Battlefield Mobility. This reduces a movement speed penalty of bracing by 36%, so that just allows us, while we're holding black, just to get places quicker, which is nice. Down into the Destruction Staff skill line. The one I want to start with here is Elemental Force. This increases the chance to apply status effects by 100%, so along with the Warden passives 200%, we got a really good chance of applying Minor Brittle on the build, especially when we're on our Ice Staff part, so that's why I like that. And then the last one we have here is Ancient Knowledge. Since we have an Ice Staff equipped on the build, this will give us a reduced cost of blocking by 36% and increase the amount of damage we can block by 20%. Listed right there. Now, as we go over armor, I will be listing some of the passives that are found within each skill line. So starting off with the light armor, there are passives in here for reductions to snares. We reduce the cost of Magicka abilities. There's an increase to our Magicka recovery. There's an increase to spell resistance. Gain spell resistance. We gain critical chance and have, more armor penetrations as well, along with other bonuses and penalties, with penalties listed here and bonuses there. Then for medium armor, there are passives in here for some critical damage and critical healing. We can reduce the cost of stamina abilities. There's an increase to stamina recovery. There's an increase to damage being done. And there's also reduced cost of roll dodge along with other bonuses listed here. For the heavy armor, there are passives in here for increased resistance. There's also an increase to health recovery. There's a thing for resource gain for taking damage. There's also some stuff for max health, more resources back after a heavy attack, and some healing received, along with other bonuses and penalties, with penalties listed here and bonuses listed there. And I want to dive down into soul magic. With soul summons, this allows us to revive once every hour without spending a soul gem, so we can keep our soul gems for keeping the charge up on our weapons, which is really nice. And then soul lock here, just by killing an enemy, have a 10% chance to automatically fill an empty soul gem. So if we're carrying empty soul gems, just nice to way to keep charges on our weapons, on top of just keeping them charged. Then down into the Fighters Guild, just intimidating presence here just for questing purposes, and that would be the same with the Mages Guild with Persuasive Will. In the Undaunted skill line, we want Undaunted Command, as this, when we activate a synergy, restores 4% of our max health, stamina, and magicka. So whenever you see a synergy, activate it, because this will definitely help sustain on the build. This gives us a good chunk of health, stamina, and a decent amount of magic back. Now, Undaunted Metal here increases our max health, stamina, and magicka by 2% per type of armor. And yes, we are wearing at least one heavy, medium, and light, and that's why we get a 6% bonus there. In the support skill line, mostly we want this Magicka Aid, because what Magicka Aid does is this increases our Magicka recovery by 10% for each support ability slotted. So just by having our barrier on our front bar, we get a 10% increase to our Magicka recovery. Now for the race on the build, we are running a Nord. Other good choices for a tank on the build is you have Imperials, you have Argonians, you could run Orc if you so desire, or any other race, because any race can tank in the Elder Scrolls Online. We just went with the Nord here because Nord gives us Resistant Frost, which increases our max health by 1,000 and Frost Resistance by 4,600, so the max health definitely helps us out with survivability. Stalwart here increases our max stamina by 1,500, great for sustaining our blocking. And then when we take damage, we gain 5 ultimate, and this effect can occur once every 10 seconds. We mostly like this just to build ultimate, and on top of it, this will help with one of our setups that we have as well. Rugged, this increases our physical and spell resistance by 2,600, and that's why we're able to hit cap on our spell resistance and pretty close to cap with our physical resistance on the build. Now for alchemy, the one passive you will want to get in here is medicinal use. When you use a potion, results effects last 30% longer. So at base level, potions only last 36 seconds, their effect does, and the global cooldown is at 45 seconds. So you got 9 seconds without getting the buffs on the potion, so make sure to get medicinal use. It definitely helps you out a ton in the game. Then for provisioning, you will want to get Gourmet on the build because we are running food on it, so this adds 20 minutes to the duration of any eaten food. So it really helps out saving on resources for making the food, and that way you don't go through as many food during gameplay. If you are running a drink, you will want Connoisseur because this adds 20 minutes to the duration of any consumed drink. Now let's go over the gear on the build. We're going to start with our advanced build setup. For slottable items, we are running the Bewitched Sugar Skulls on this build. This gives us max resources, so this increases our max health, max stamina, and max magicka by a good amount. On top of it, this does give us some health recovery. If you can't afford this or can't make this on the build, you will be perfectly fine to run Crown Fortified Meal on the build. This will just have a slightly decrease to your max health, magicka, and stamina. But if you don't have Crown Fortified Meal, your crafted option for this that would give you the same results as Crown Fortified Meal would be the Longfin Paste with melon sauce. For potions on the build, we're running the Crown Tri Restoration Potions, as this gives us good chunk of health, magicka, and stamina back. On top of it, this will give us our Major Fortitude, Major Intellect, and Major Endurance, which increases our health, magicka, and stamina recovery by 30%. If you don't have the Crown Tri Restoration Potion, then your crafted option would be Essence of Health, as this would restore health, magicka, and stamina as well, except for this one would have a longer duration for your health recovery by 30% for 52 seconds instead of 47 seconds like Crown Tri Restoration Potion. So if you want a little bit more health recovery for a longer duration, Essence of Health is your go-to potion then. Now starting with our front bar weapon, we have the Jorval Guided Axe with Weakening Enchantment, reduces target's weapon and spell damage by 174 for 5 seconds. Really helpful to help us tank as a tank because we're not taking as much damage from this. And we want Decisive Trait because when we gain ultimate, we have a 27.5% chance to gain one additional ultimate as long as we're on this bar. In being a Nord, we get one ultimate there. We have Heroic Slash that can give us ultimate. We even got a set in here that can give us ultimate, so that will help us a lot. Now the Jorval Guided set, for 2 pieces we get 129 Magicka Recovery, 3 pieces another 129 Magicka Recovery, 4-piece bonus is we add 4% healing done, so even our heals are a little bit stronger. And the 5-piece bonus is while in combat, increase the duration of all major buffs, minor buffs, and damage shields that we apply to ourselves and allies by 40%. So we are now building a buff tank. This guy is going to buff a lot of our stuff that we have. So let's go over just some skills again briefly. All the way back up the top here. So the first skill on our bar, Enchanted Growth. This gives minor intellect, minor endurance for magic and stamina recovery, 15% for 20 seconds. This now goes to 28 seconds. Heroic Slash gives minor heroism, granting us 1 ultimate, but with decisive trait on our axe, we now can maybe get 2 ultimate every second and a half with a 27% chance of it for 12 seconds. This is no longer just 12 seconds. This now moves roughly to about 16-17 seconds. Now our Polar Wind here is a direct heal, and this can now apply our in passives. We went over minor toughness that will last for, here we go, we'll go look at it real quick, for 20 seconds. This now gets changed to 28 seconds along with our Enchanted Growth. Our Reviving Barrier gives us a damage shield for 30 seconds. That's no longer 30 seconds. That's now roughly about 42 seconds. And then over into our back bar, our Blockade of Frost actually gives us a Safeguard, which is actually a damage shield as well, and that will now be at 8 seconds to protect allies from projectiles. Then we have Ice Fortress, gives us Major Resolve for 30 seconds, that will now be 42 seconds. Minor Protection for 30 seconds, that will also be at 42 seconds. And in case you didn't know, as we go up into our slottables, this also affects potions as well. So yes, our potions give us Major Fortitude, Major Intellect, and Major Endurance. So now potions can last a full minute with having Jorval's Guided set equipped. So we are buffing a ton of things on this build. So let's move over now to the shield on the build. This has a max stamina enchantment on the build with sturdy trait just to really help reduce the cost of blocking, so that way we don't run through as much stamina. And then we have the Ice Staff with the Crusher enchantment just to help reduce the physical and spell resistance by 2100 for 5 seconds whenever it procs. That way we lower as much resistance that the enemy has, so that way our DPS can hit a lot harder. We went Infused Trait, just increase the weapon enchantment effectiveness by 30% on this, and also reduce the enchantment cooldown by 50% on this build. Now over to the helmet that we are running the Magma Incarnate Mask. This is a medium armor piece with max stamina enchantment, sturdy trait. Now the Magma Incarnate set gives us 129 magic recovery, 129 stamina recovery, and for 2-piece bonuses, when we heal ourselves or a group member with a single target heal ability, grant the lowest health group member within 28 meters minor courage and minor resolve, increasing their weapon and spell damage by 215 and armor by 2900 for 10 seconds. Then a Daedric energy will then bounce to the nearby group member within 8 meters up to 3 times, applying minor courage and minor resolve for 10 seconds. This effect can occur once every 15 seconds. So as long as your group members kind of stay close on this setup, you'll end up applying minor courage and minor resolve to your group members. Now, keep in mind we have Jorval, so it's not now 10 seconds, this is now roughly 14 seconds. So with 1 second cooldown, we can then reapply these abilities, and we can now give them minor courage and minor resolve for that duration. Moving on over into the chest piece, we have Drake's Rush. This gives us max stamina enchantment with reinforced trait just to build ourselves some armor up. And the Drake's Rush set gives us 1200 max health, 1000 max stamina, another 1000 max stamina, and 5-piece bonus is when we bash an enemy, you and up to 3 group members within 15 meters of you gain major heroism for 12 seconds, granting 3 ultimate every 1.5 seconds, and this effect can occur once every 18 seconds. Now, keep in mind we have Jorvals as well. It's a major buff. This now goes to, instead of 12 seconds, is now at 17 seconds. And if we're on our front bar when we proc this, we have decisive trait. Instead of maybe getting 3 ultimate, we have a chance now to get 4 ultimate every second and a half, with a 27% chance for that. Moving over into the shoulders, this is the Magma Incarnate Ellipse, so this is our light piece with Max Magicka enchantment, sturdy trait here, and that will be the same enchantment and trait for the waist, hands, and feet. And then legs will then be our max stamina enchantment with reinforced trait. On the jewelry, we are running a Jorval Guide set with all magic recovery enchantments on the build with arcane trait. Again, as I said earlier at the beginning of this build video, if you felt like your magicka was a little low or stamina was a little low, we can change some things around. Mostly it's going to be in our slottable, or it's going to mostly be in our character sheet where we had our active effects or our Munda Stone we have to change, or with our attributes here as well. Now going over the champion points system for our advanced build. For slottables in the blue tree, we have Duelist Rebuff, just to reduce our damage taken by single target attacks by 6%. We have Enduring Resolve, reduce the damage taken by damage over time attacks by 6%. And then Unassailable, reduce the damage taken by area of effects attacks by 6%. Now a lot of your debuffs in the build here that are going to make you tanky are all in this tree. As you have Ironclad, reduce the damage taken by direct damage attacks by 6%. But you really want to get Preparation here. This reduces our damage taken from non-player attacks by 10% in total. And then you have Elemental Aegis. This will reduce magical type effects by 2%. And then you have Party. This will reduce martial attacks by 2%. Then you really want to get Eldritch Insight for more magicka, and then Tireless Discipline for more stamina. On top of it, you really actually want to get into here as well, because this will increase our healing done by 2%, so we can just heal ourselves better with our self-heal. And then you will really want to get into this Extended Might here, because this will add some Flawless Ritual here, will give us a chance to apply magical status effect by 60% with our magic powers over here really, and then our martial powers over here. Over into the red tree, we have Fortified for more armor gain. We have Boundless Vitality for more health. We end up having Expert Evasion, for that way our roll dodge is free at the first time. And if we don't consume another roll dodge within 30 seconds, after 30 seconds, it's free again. You really want to get then over into here for more resistance and reduce to like the cost of blocking for stamina, reduce cost of bashing and stuff like that. You also want to make sure to pick up Hero's Vigor for more health. This will Survivor here with Mystic Tenacity to help reduce your duration of elemental status effects that are applied to you by 25%, which is really, really handy. And then our last slottable that we really do have on the build here is Bracing Anchors. While in combat, increase the amount of damage we can block by 20%, but reduce our movement speed by 16%. So yeah, we're going to be a little bit slow as a tank, but I'd rather have more block mitigation than be quick instead of no block mitigation. Or, I said that wrong. I'd rather have more block mitigation and be slow than being quick and have nothing. Then over into the green tree, slottables that we have here is Treasure Hunter, just increase the quality of gold items found or quality of items found in treasure chests. Then Rationer, just add 30 minutes duration of our food and drinks. then liquid efficiency gives us a 10% chance to not consume a potion or poison, so save on resources. And then Steed's Blessing increase our out of combat movement speed by 20%. So let us now dive into our beginner build. Okay, now we are on our beginner build. I'm going to just kind of briefly go through this and buff ourselves up. So for the character sheet here, we have 19,800 max magicka, max health at 45,200, max stamina at 22,700. Recoveries can go up as well. We're going to have pretty decent recovery on the build with 2,300 magicka recovery, health recovery at 1,100, and stamina recovery at 700. And resistance as well on the build is going to be better on our front bar with spell resistance at 32,100 and physical resistance at 31,400. We are running the same amount of attributes. Again, you can change this if you want to more magicka or more stamina if you feel like those are kind of low and feel like you have way too much health. And then for the Mundus Stone or Boon, we are running Atronach. Again, you can use a max health, max stamina, or max magicka one if you prefer that. Skills, just quickly, we have the same type of skills, except for this one is set up with our shield wall, just to kind of give people a look at what beginners are, and then the back wall with permafrost. Now for the gear on the build, slottable items, just a quick overview. All the slottables are kind of the same, whatever you can equip. Chances are you're only going to have the long fin paste with melon sauce, but if you can get Bewitched Sugar Skulls, I highly recommend that. And potions, if you do daily logins, you should have Crown Tri-Restoration potions, but your crafted option would be Essence of Health here to give you all 3 resources back. Now for our main hand, we are running the Sword of the Seducer, weakening enchantment here, just to reduce weapon and spell damage by 174 for 5 seconds. That way we don't take as much damage or anybody else take as much damage. We went with the Decisive trait just to gain ultimate, a little bit better chance of it with a 27% chance at gold quality here. Since we are a Nord, we do get a better chance of getting ultimate. And now the Armor of the Seducer, for 2 pieces, 129 magicka recovery, 3 piece, 1000 max magicka, 4 piece, 129 magicka recovery, and then 5 piece bonus. Reduce the cost of your magic abilities by 10%. We do have a ton of abilities that have a lot of magicka to do with them. So I just figured as a beginner, it's kind of nice just to help reduce that magicka cost overall, because there are a lot, like I said. So just having 10% reduced from those abilities is kind of nice. On the shield, we are running a max stamina enchantment and sturdy trait just to help with reduced cost of blocking, so that way we can block longer on the build. And then on the back bar, we do have the Crusher enchantment with the Ice Staff, just reduce target's physical and spell resistance by 2,100, just to allow our DPS to hit a lot harder when this procs. We did the Infused trait, just increase the weapon enchantment effectiveness by 30% here. And then reduce the enchantment cooldown by 50%. For the head here, this is a medium armor piece here, so this will be the Helmet of the Seducer with max stamina enchantment and sturdy trait. Now for the chest piece here, we have the Undaunted Bastion. This is a max stamina enchantment with reinforced trait, just to give ourselves a lot more armor on the build. And what the Undaunted Bastion set gives you is this is 1,200 max health, 1,400 armor, 4 piece again, 1,400 armor, and 5 piece bonus is when we use a taunt ability while under 75% health. We gain a damage shield that absorbs 14,000 damage for 6 seconds. This effect can occur once every 10 seconds. So it's just kind of nice, I feel, as a beginner, just to have that damage shield, since Wardens don't really have a actual damage shield that blocks melee fighters. They do have a damage shield that blocks projectiles in their Winter's Embrace skill line. So I just figured something that would actually block all damage is a little bit better than just a projectile. Now, You could change this up. I just went with a base game set. If you do have the option, I would highly recommend getting Brands of the Imperium, because what the Brands of Imperium give you is 1,200 max health, again 1,200 max health, and then 4% healing taken. What it is, whenever you take damage, and as a tank you're going to take damage a lot of times, but this will grant you and your group members within 8 meters a damage shield that absorbs 11,200 damage for 6 seconds. And this effect can occur once every 12 seconds. Yes, as you can see, kind of a comparison window, that it is slightly lower for damage shield and it takes a little bit longer for it to occur. However, I would say you're playing more of your role with the Brands of the Imperium by being that support tank and actually protecting and buffing your allies a little bit better. So that's why I would rather go with Brands of the Imperium, because you're supporting the group is mostly the main tank's job. At the end of the day, first step is if you can survive. If you can't survive and need a bigger damage shield, then yes, I would say keep with the Undaunted Bastion set, because that is going to definitely save you more than what the Brands of the Imperium are, because the Brands of the Imperium have just a slightly weaker shield. So the choices kind of here is yours. If you have access to brands, great. If you don't, then I'd go on Undaunted Bastion then. For the shoulders, this is a light piece of the Seducer set with Max Magic Enchantment Sturdy trait here, and you will want pretty much the same enchantment and trait for the shoulder here, waist, hands, and feet. For the legs, we have Max Stamina Enchantment with Reinforced trait. On the neck, this is the part of the Seducer set. We want Magic Recovery here and Healthy trait here just to buff off our health. If you want to, you can change this to Arcane or Robust if you need, either or Resource Pool. If you need more Magicka, then that'd be Arcane. If you need more Stamina, then you want Robust. Now for the rings, this is part of the Rings of Endurance set from, we want Max or Magic Recovery on this, and we want Healthy trait. For 2 pieces of this gives us 1,900 max health, so that's why our health is quite high. Again, if you don't feel like you want the Healthy trait, and again, you want Arcane for more Magicka or Robust for more max Stamina. Now for champion points on the beginner build, this will be 300 point champion system. For slottables, we have Duelist Rebuff here, just reduce damage taken by single target attacks. We have Unassailable, reduce the damage taken by area of effect attacks. And we got 5 points kind of starting in here, kind of when you get more points over 300, where I would start putting them into, just to get Enduring Resolve. And then in here, we just want a little bit of quick recovery, but you'll want Ironclad because this will reduce your damage taken by direct damage attacks. Now, when you kind of get that last slottable all the way up to 25 points, what I would recommend is coming in here and making sure you get Preparation first, and then maybe getting Elemental Aegis, and then Hardy, just to really reduce the amount of damage you really take, and then finish filling up those slottables. And then we have 10 points into Tireless Discipline for more max stamina. After that, I'd probably go Eldritch Insight for more max Magicka, and then I'd go into Master Cautioner here just to get Blessed, and make sure to get Blessed all the way up, so increase your healing done is kind of the route I would go if I were doing it. Over into the red tree, we have Fortified for more armor, we have Boundless Vitality for more max health, and we decided to start over in here really because this is where a lot of your defense is going to be, so you want Fortification here just to reduce the amount of damage you block by 4%, and then reduce the cost of blocking by 40 stamina. And then for our last slottable, we're Walking Fortress here. We have Bracing Anchors while in combat, increase the amount of damage we can block by 4% per stage. So at the end, that'd be a 20% block mitigation, but reduce the movement speed by 16% at all stages. So it's just kind of nice just to block as much as we can, even though we are slowed. And then after that, I would get into Wind Chaser, just get a couple points into Hasty here, and then try to get into Hero's Vigor for more health, and then fill out your other ones over here. Then over into the green tree, the ones that we have here is I went Treasure Hunter, just increase the quality of items you find in treasure chests. That way we can get better quality items and gear. Then I went to Rationer, as this gives us 10 minutes to the duration of any food or drink, and that way we can save on some of our resources. And then we went to Seed's Blessing, just increase our out of combat movement speed by 2%. This will wrap it up for the Warden tank. Thank you so much for making time to watch my video. Make sure to leave a like and consider subscribing to the channel, as it goes a long way to help reach others and helps in the YouTube algorithm. If you want to stay up to date with further content, click the bell icon to get notified when I make a new video. If you have any questions or suggestions, feel free to leave a comment down below or over at Twitter. Hopefully I will see you in game or in the next video.